Welcome back to the RDP YouTube channel, my friend, where we are simplifying fitness by observing the fundamental processes and principles of mother and human nature. I'm Matt Schifferly, and it's the second part of that phrase that we're focusing on today, because you can know everything about the science and the optimization about diet and exercise and what we're physically doing, but if we're working against or ignoring the very essence of what makes us human, because fitness is, after all, a human endeavor, then we're still completely screwed in SOL. And the unfortunate thing is there are so many messages within our fitness culture that actually encourage you to work against your very nature in the name of doing things correct or right and stuff. And what that essentially does is it leaves you fighting yourself, fighting your very nature, making this whole fitness thing a complete uphill battle. And the last of these 3 points is the one that can actually get you addicted and dependent upon a lot of things that are not in your best interests. Fundamentally, we humans are wired to seek rewards and avoid pain, if you will. So all of the decisions we ever make in health and fitness and life in general are motivated by the process between our perceived costs and our perceived benefits of those habits. So anything that we're doing that has a very high perceived cost and very low perceived benefit, we're simply not going to be motivated to do. We're going to seek ways to avoid doing those things. And no amount of grit, determination, willpower, or discipline is going to save you from this desire. In fact, I usually tell people, if you are losing motivation for something, that's a very healthy thing and you probably shouldn't be doing it. We want to flip the script and use things that bring us a high perceived reward at a low perceived cost, and that's how you become unstoppable. And the first way that we can do this is by recognizing the vast importance of short-term and instant gratification. I know a lot of coaches out there that say instant gratification is a bad thing. You have to defer gratification. It's the only way you get ahead. And to a degree, there are instances of that. Yes, there are certainly some habits that have a short-term gratification, but long-term costs, things like drug abuse and smoking and endless video game playing and things like that, addictions, if you will. That is certainly the case, but that's not at all always the case. And sometimes you'll hear things like, okay, if it's bringing short-term gratification, that means it's bad. You have to avoid it. And the only way to get ahead is to deny ourselves that short-term gratification. And then we're going to have the long-term gains. But that's not always going to happen either. There's certainly plenty of cases where you sacrifice now and in the future, you're still screwed. It doesn't pan out at all. It happens all the time. It's happened through most of my fitness career until I realized what I was doing. So the way we want to address this to get you in better alignment with your true human nature is to find those habits that offer both short-term and long-term gratification. So when I'm doing my calisthenics and my mountain biking and working out and stuff, that's undoubtedly setting me up for long-term benefits. But I'm also doing it because it makes me feel really good today. I love the feeling of how my muscles feel when I get a good pump and the speed and exhilaration of riding my mountain bike. I'm only engaging in habits that feel good in the moment as well. So that way I'm getting short and long term. And it's the same thing with foods. Yeah, we want to eat well, plenty of plant-based foods, good proteins, whole foods, all that sort of thing for long-term gain. But you should be eating foods that taste great and satisfy your hunger and your desire to the hedonic desires for food now. It's not going to do you much good if you're always starving yourself and fighting constant cravings, because the more you defer gratification, the more you're setting yourself up for more perceived cost with a lower perceived reward, and that's never going to work out for you in the end. The second principle that we want to observe about how we're fundamentally wired is that we always follow the path of least resistance in everything we do in life. Now, granted, that doesn't mean the path of no resistance. I'm saying the path of least resistance. You have two choices. You're always going to have some resistance for both of them, but you're always going to choose whatever one offers the least resistance for the most reward, regardless of what it is. So rather than trying to fight this and trying to fight an uphill battle, use it to your advantage. In other words, those habits that don't put you in alignment with your goals of whether you're trying to build muscle or lose weight, those habits add some extra resistance to it. For example, I don't have a television here. I don't have any streaming services under my accounts, which means that if I want to watch a movie or catch up on how football's game are playing and stuff, I have to go through extra steps to make that happen. But on the other hand, I got my pull-up bar set up right here. In order for me to get a workout, I literally just grab and go. I've removed resistance from my exercise and added resistance for more sedentary activities. Because always remember that at the end of the day, you can't change where you are right now at this moment, and you can't change where your destination is, but the only power you have is influencing how you build that path between those two, and the less resistance you have from where you are now to where you want to be, the better off you're going to be. And then finally, the third point, this is probably the most important one, is recognizing that ultimately we humans are insecure, scared little creatures at heart, which means that even under the best of times, we all desire, above all else, power and control over those things, particularly the things we don't feel we have a lot of power and control over. And this is why a lot of us get lured into a healthy fitness and lifestyle habits, because we want more control over our body, how it looks, how it feels, how it performs, our health, our fitness, and all this. We want more control over this thing. Problem is, you can't have full control over your health and fitness. It is literally impossible, because there's always going to be influences towards your health and fitness that you have zero control over. I just made this post about it, about how a lot of people focus so much on what they can't control, and they say, oh, it's impossible for me to get in shape. It's impossible for me to lose weight. Look at the agribusiness is putting this stuff in food, and the weather is terrible, and all these sorts of things. Yeah, there's always going to be stuff working against you. You can't do anything about that. Instead, we want to focus on the very things that we can control, because while you can't have full control over your health and fitness, you can, in fact, have more control over it, and that's all you need. No one needs total control in order to get what they want. But unfortunately, in our fitness culture, there's a lot of messages out there tricking you and fooling you into saying, oh, but you can have that control. If you reduce or completely eliminate sugar, that's going to give you full control over your weight. Or if you eliminate seed oils, that's going to give you full control over your health, and so on and so on. But the fact of the matter is, there's a heck of a lot more to your weight than sugar and insulin and carbohydrates. Lots more. There's a lot more to your health than vitamins and minerals and protein and all these other sorts of things. So the downside is that when these dogmatic messages tell you focus on this one narrow, tiny piece of the puzzle, they're basically saying limit yourself. There's all these other things that are also important, but ignore all that stuff. Instead, focus on just inflammation or sugar or whatever it is, and therefore you will have full control. And of course, that's complete science fiction. You can't have that kind of control. And actually, the more you focus on anything that's supposedly giving you control, the less control you're actually going to have, and the more dependent you become on those rules and dogmatic approaches. So there's a lot of freedom that comes with having a multi-influential approach. And even though you may recognize, well, I can't do much about my job right now, or the fact that I have to commute an hour each way, it's like, fine, great. You have a couple things working against you. Everybody does. But focus on the things that you can control with relative ease, path of least resistance, the things that bring you the most benefit in the short and the long term, and you're going to start flipping that process around to work in your favor rather than against you. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments down below, and thank you very much as always for watching. Be fit and live free.